One Life Church devotional series where we cover the entire Bible in 20 months. Well, we finished the book of Micah today, and in addition, we begin a new book, that of Nahum. Now, I'm still up here in Johannesburg. I'm stuck away in this hotel room at this conference, and feeling pretty much like those who were stuck in Babylon, tucked away in exile. Great place to finish off this prophetic book. So chapter 7 ends with a personification of Israel, described as an individual sitting in exile, sitting in defeat, waiting and watching for God's mercy, and in fact begging for God to forgive and to release them from their confinement, release them from their captivity. And you might ask, why? What grounds did Micah reflect Israel having to plead for God to set them free from the discipline that he had put them under in exile? Well, he gives two reasons actually. First is the character of God, and second is God's covenant. So verse 18 says, "You do not stay angry forever, but delight to show mercy." He's going straight to God's nature, that his mercy triumphs over his judgment. "You will again have compassion on us. You will tread our sins underfoot and hurl our iniquities into the depths of the sea." But once you've done that, once you've forgiven our sin, once you've sorted out our sin, once you've thrown it away as far as the east is from the west, we know that your mercy is going to come to fore. We know that your compassion is going to come to fore. We lean on that. We depend on that. We ask you to intervene. And then he ends by moving from God's character to the promises God has made. God has made promises over Jacob. He's made promises over Abraham. He says, "You will be faithful to Jacob and show love to Abraham as you pledged on oath to our ancestors in the days long ago." He's basically saying that we know the covenants that you have made over us are lasting, they're binding, they're eternal. And we know that as you have dealt with us in discipline, that your covenant underpins it all. The reason you're disciplining us is because you're positioning us to walk in your covenants. A beautiful way to end that book. Now, let's go to the book of Nahum. So Nahum, we don't know too much about him, but we do know Nahum is an abbreviated form of Nehemiah, just like Bob is an abbreviated form of Robert. And so this guy Nehemiah, we really don't know too much about the city that he comes from or who he was, but he's giving a prophecy concerning Nineveh. Now that word, it says, this is a prophetic word. That word prophecy, the word massa, is a burden. It's a burden that's going to be lifted. That's what it literally means. So this prophet Nahum or Nehemiah is given a burden about Nehemiah, and it's soon going to be lifted. So the presumption is he's prophesying at the height of the Assyrian oppression. Remember, the Assyrians were one of Israel's arch enemies. They came in, swooped into the northern kingdom. They came in with violence like had never been seen before, and they dragged them all off into captivity. So the northern kingdom and the Israelites that were sitting in captivity were waiting for God's judgment, for this burden to be lifted, for him to judge Nineveh. And so this actually happened in the verse in the year 612 BC. The Babylonians rose up under the feet of the Assyrians and conquered the Assyrians, and we'll see the prophecy concerning that tomorrow. But Nahum opens with a powerful picture of God's glory, basically saying, because God is glorious, he's going to take out our enemy. Verse 3 says, "The Lord is slow to anger, but he is great in power. The Lord will not leave the guilty unpunished." He's basically introducing the nature of God by that famous line out of Exodus 34, where the Lord is slow to anger, but great in power. You watch him. He's coming. He's going to take out the Assyrians. He's going to overthrow Nineveh. And so this poem goes back and forth describing the judgment on Nineveh and the rescue of God's people, the judgment on Nineveh and the rescue of God's people. And I suppose the message is that God reigns over all the nations, and every proud nation, As it rises up, God will eventually bring it down. And we've seen that through history, haven't we? The Egyptians rose up, God brought them down. The Romans rose up, God brought them down. Even the British, who I'm descended from, rose up and God brought them down. God reigns supreme over the nations. They rise up and they fall at his beckoning.